welcome back to this video. The answer for today is, what is the deal with Ellen White and the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Firstly, I want to clarify a few misconceptions that people have about Ellen White that you will find online. One thing is that some people like to say that she was brain damaged as a result of an incident that occurred to her when she was a child, where a stone was thrown to her face. Now, if you read any of her stuff, any of her books, you will clearly see that the woman was not brain damaged. The extent of her writings and the academic level of her writing for that time was exceptionally high. So clearly she wasn't brain damaged. Another thing that is said was that she was severely deformed as a result of the injury. Again, if you were to look at photos from back then or paintings that were made of Ellen White, there is clearly no deformities to her as well. Another thing that is misrepresented about Ellen White is that she predicted the second coming in 1844. She actually didn't. It was a Baptist preacher named William Miller who predicted that, based on some diligent Bible study that he had done, that he believed that God showed him that Jesus was going to come in October of 1844. That was not Ellen White. It was actually William Miller, and a lot of people from different denominations believed that, preached it and professed it, and obviously they were greatly disappointed when Jesus didn't come. But I will do a little video on that as well, just to clarify some details. Another point that is misunderstood and misrepresented online is that people believe that Ellen White started the Seventh-day Adventist Church after 1844, when they thought Jesus was going to come. There was a group of people that believed in this idea and the teaching that Jesus was going to return. These group of people, they began to preach that Jesus was going to return. So they became Adventist, which means returning. And in addition to that, they then were shown the Sabbath truth. That's the seventh day Sabbath was actually Saturday, not Sunday. And that is why the denomination is called Seventh-day Adventist. And that was in 1863 that the church was officially established as a denomination. Another thing that a lot of people do put online is that we believe her over the Bible. In the transparency of this channel and the desire of what I wanted in this channel was that I will be honest with you. There are people that preach Ellen White, that quote and reference Ellen White way more than they should, and way more than they reference and quote the Bible. So yes, there are some people that tend to be a little bit too fanatical about Ellen White's writing within the Adventist church. But I know all denominations experience that. There are people within evangelical and Pentecostal churches and within other denominations that may reference Joel Osteen more than they do the Bible, Rick Warren more than they do the Bible, or Joyce Meyer more than they do the Bible. So I think it's a human thing to sometimes overquote or overpreach other people rather than the Bible itself. So that's that clarification. Now let's get into the bulk of this video. So what is Google's definition of a prophet? Let's have a look. It says, let me get it up. A person regarded as an inspired teacher or a proclaimer of the will of God. So by definition, it is someone who has been inspired to teach regarding concepts within the Bible. And it is also someone that has been given a gift to proclaim the will of God. John the Baptist was a prophet. However, his writings are not found within the Bible. He was a prophet, but not a Bible writer. So just because someone's writings are not in the Bible does not mean that they have not been given that gift. In Acts chapter 2, we find that it says, in the last days, your sons and your daughters will be able to prophesy, they will be given visions, and they will dream dreams. And that is reference to Joel. So it is part of the early church, it is part of God's church to be able to have dreams, visions, and to prophesy. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, it says that we are to desire the gifts of the Spirit, especially prophecy. So it has a predominant use or need within the context of our church and in the context of Christianity. In John chapter 4, it does give warning to prophets. So I do want to reference the fact that even though the gift of prophecy, the spiritual gift of prophecy is biblical, that the Bible also warns us about false prophets and false teachers. So in John chapter 4, it says, don't believe every spirit, but test them. And I encourage everyone to test Ellen White for yourself. If you go online, obviously there's a lot of construed opinions about Ellen White, and they like to point out things that maybe don't make a lot of sense, rather than looking at the full extent of her writings and really determining for yourselves whether she is a false prophet or not. There is another warning in it. There's many warnings, but another warning is found in 2 Corinthians chapter 11. It says that people will come disguised as apostles of Christ. So I strongly believe that it is very wise to test the spirit and to really read through their material before you are accepting everything that they say as prophetic or as given from God. So that's that. So now let's talk a little bit about Ellen White. At the age of 17, she was given her first vision in 1844 after this great disappointment where they thought Jesus was coming and he didn't come. And as a result, she experienced visions and dreams throughout her whole life. And as a result of those dreams and visions and of the position that she had within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, there is over 100,000 pages of literature that she wrote. Some of it is inspired from God and was direct messages that she was asked to give the church. And then there are other writings that are documented of Ellen White where she is addressing people where she felt she needed to advise them or counsel them, predominantly church leaders and also people that were quite influential within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. All right, so where do I stand on this thing with Ellen White? I personally do not use Ellen White's literature or anything that she has written for my personal devotional time. I just use the Bible. I also do not use it for my personal Bible study time. In addition to that, I actually do not reference Ellen White in any Bible studies that I give out to community members or to people that are, wanting to learn more about Adventists. Or about the gospel. I don't use any of her stuff for that. Do I read her books? Yes, I do. So I don't read them very often. I will honestly tell you, maybe once, twice a month, if that. So I do read it, and I am thoroughly blessed by her books. There is definitely a beauty in what she was shown, what she experienced, and the love that she had for her Savior. So when I read books like Steps to Christ, The Great Controversy, Desire of Ages, Acts of the Apostles, all those books always draw me closer to my Savior because of the experience that Ellen White had. So that's where I stand on that. Where does the church stand? There is varying degrees of Ellen White usage within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. You can go to one church and they will not use Ellen White. They will not reference Ellen White in a sermon. They will not even speak of Ellen White at their church. And then there are other churches where it feels as though everything was all about Ellen White. So that is the context of how she is used. And I don't think it's healthy in some churches, the obsessive amount of Ellen White references that they do use within their messages and within their conversation. But it is the reality of how it is. And I think there is definitely a shift in our culture to not use her writings as much, or really to use them as garnish and making the Bible the main meal or the bulk of the meal. So that is where we are with that point. I will like to say that Ellen White and the things that she wrote and the advice that she gave to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, it molds our culture, but it doesn't mold our doctrine. I believe with all confidence and surety that the Bible is what has shaped the Seventh-day Adventist Church to be what it is in all aspects, and especially with regards to our doctrinal beliefs. I can tell you with full confidence, you can take Ellen White out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Seventh-day Adventist Church will still look the same, because our foundation and everything that we believe and everything that we stand for is completely biblical. Ellen White may just enhance that, but she doesn't form the basis for what we are and the identity that we are as Seventh-day Adventists. And to conclude, in order to be baptized, do you have to believe in Ellen White as a prophet? The $1 million answer to that is no. There is no emphasis placed on you accepting that Ellen White is a prophet, or that you should apply her teachings, her writings, her counsels to your life. That is not conditional for baptism. What is probably emphasized more at the point of desiring to be baptized and to be part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is that you do understand and acknowledge that the Bible teaches that prophecy is a spiritual gift that God desires to give to certain people. Now, if at some point in your journey as a Seventh-day Adventist, you do embrace her writings and you do see the beauty in what God did show her, that's your own decision and your own personal conviction, but you don't have to believe in Ellen White as a prophet in order to be baptized. But more importantly, rather you acknowledging and understanding that it is biblical to be a prophet and to prophesy, and that God has said that prophecy will be within the church in the last days. So I hope that's enough information. Again, any more questions? You know who to ask. So if you do have any more questions about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, make sure to ask the SDA Insider.